For my investigative project, I will be studying the Lascaux cave paintings. The artwork found in the Lascaux caves gives valuable insight to the creativity and perspective of the Magdalenian people who created the masterpieces inside. They are a key to unlocking the history of mankind, the tools that were developed, the religious beliefs, and so much more. Sites such as these caves are priceless pieces of history, especially for societies that had no written documents. Many times after opening up historical sites to the public, the influx of tourists causes the destruction of the pieces inside. Such is the case with the Lascaux caves, which were closed to the public due to mold growth and other complications from human contact. Because these sites are so valuable to human history, their preservation is more important than ensuring that they are accessible for tourists. The Lascaux caves were discovered in September of 1940 by a group of teenagers in France. This discovery led to the uncovering of the history of the Magdalenian people who inhabited the area approximately 18,000 years ago. The Lascaux caves are one of the best examples of the turn from rigid and geometric figures to more realistic depictions of the world through art. These paintings give a clear insight into the daily lives of the Magdalenian hunters. One animal found in the caves is the bison, which were an essential part of their lifestyle. In fact, their fat was used to create the lamps that were used to light the way for the artist of the caves, as seen in the image above. The bison were not the only animals painted on the walls of the caves. Some others included horses, bulls, and stags, such as these. To look more closely at the work of art in the caves, we will look at the painting called the Red Cow. The Red Cow painting, like many of the others in the caves, is slightly abstract in the way that the proportions of the animal in the painting are not very realistic. It can be seen that the body is much larger than the head and the legs of the cow. This cow was most likely painted by engraving the rock with flint tools, and then filling the engravings with powdered color, made from coal, rust, or plants. This particular painting was created over an already existing work of art, made years before, as seen above. These caves are thought to have been a decorated sanctuary, where religious ceremonies were performed, most likely related to hunting. While created thousands of years earlier, the symbolic meaning of the caves are not very different than the religious paintings created by the Aboriginal civilization in Australia. This civilization also uses art in their ceremonies and rituals that can be used to study their beliefs and culture. One example of this is the piece called Witchery Grub Dreaming. This piece is very abstract in comparison to the animal paintings in the Lascaux caves, using geometry and different lines to create an image that tells the story of their belief system. In this piece, the story being told is that of the origin of life. The lines in this piece all meet together in the center circle, representing the idea that the location of food and water is at the center of Australia. The symmetry in this piece is used to symbolize the balance in the universe, which provides the life source for humans. While this artwork is relatively recent, made in the 1980s, it shows how valuable artwork can be in preserving a culture that has been around since the Stone Age. Another related image is the fowling scene from the Egyptian tomb of Nebum. This wall painting shows the Egyptian noble hunting birds along the Nile River. This painting is just one example of the many paintings found in Egyptian tombs. In this particular work of art, the social norms and lifestyle of the nobles is depicted. The man is larger in size than the woman and his daughter, showing that he has more status in the society. He is depicted hunting along the Nile River, an activity that was not done for survival but for a leisure pastime, once again showing his social status. Aside from living things in the paintings, the pattern elements are used to show the cycles of the Nile and the vastness of the desert. Not only do the paintings in the Egyptian tombs hold great historical significance, but also everything found in the tombs. The objects that many Egyptians were buried with goes to show their beliefs about the afterlife. These tombs are priceless pieces of history, much like the caves of Lascaux. However, many of the tombs have been plumaged and destroyed by humans. Like the Lascaux caves and the Aboriginal ritual art, the Egyptian tomb paintings provide key historical context into a civilization that is no longer existing. Without these historical works of art, the perspective and lifestyle of many civilizations would be lost. Unfortunately, that is what is happening to the Lascaux caves. Due to the large amount of tourists that have visited the caves since its discovery, the carbon dioxide levels inside the caves have increased drastically. However, throughout the years, many efforts have been made to try and preserve the caves while still allowing for tourists. In 1958, a machine was used to help stabilize the air in the caves. However, this required the digging of tunnels under the caves, which prevented any future archaeological excavations. This was only a temporary solution, as over the years, new problems arose, such as the development of white crystals as well as the growth of microorganisms along the cave walls. The Lascaux caves are currently closed while many scientists decide the best method for fixing the disease, which was discussed in a symposium created specifically to address this issue. In many situations, such as in this one, alternatives can be made. For example, a replica exhibition of the caves was created, which allows for the public to experience the wonder of the caves without putting them at harm. This was also done for the Chevet caves, which you can see look very realistic. Some argue that this method of replicating art does not have the same effect. However, the safety of the actual caves is much more important. The large amount of tourism that occurred at the Lascaux caves soon after its discovery and the amount of time it took for them to eventually close it to the public created irreversible damage to the art inside. For over 1,000 years, the art was preserved and intact. However, in less than 100 years after being opened to the public, they were almost destroyed. While it is amazing to see such masterpieces in person, the preservation of these historical sites is essential and more important than making them accessible to the public, allowing them to be studied carefully for years to come.